Okay, today I'm going to do a review of the Harbor Freight router table, and I needed a router and a router table at the same time, and I thought, well, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money, and so I watched some YouTube videos and came across this guy here, so I thought I'd give it a shot. $109. It was $116 out the door here in Virginia. And so I've used it a few times. Just cut some dados. I'm making beehives out of some wood, and I need some dados cut, and so that's what I'm using it for. But I've cut probably 20 dados so far, and I think I got a pretty good grip on what's going on with this thing. So I thought I'd give you my thoughts. And hopefully, down the road it will help somebody out if they're looking for a router and they don't want to spend a whole bunch of money, or it's not a bad way to go. Anyway, so the assembly is pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. As a matter of fact, it's very straightforward. The only assembly you really have to do is the legs, and there's 4 screws for each leg. They come with nuts and a very small lock washer, but they're very easy to attach, and it's a little weird getting your hand in there sometimes to do it, but otherwise it's simple. So, but one thing that I found after I attached the legs was that I went around the table and made sure that all the other nuts and bolts were tight, and I found that most of them they weren't necessarily loose, but they certainly weren't tight. So it's a good idea, I think, to go around and go ahead and snug those up, just given what's going on here. So I think it's a pretty good idea to do that. But the other thing that comes in the box are 2 wrenches. They're not the best in the world, but I suppose they serve the purpose for tightening up the whatever bit you're using. It's a 21 millimeter and a 24 millimeter. If you decide to buy this, I would definitely get some regular wrenches to do your tightening and loosening, changing your bits out. These do the job, just not my first choice. That's all. So I think we can probably all attest to that. But anyway, they're good to have at minimum for a backup. But if you don't have a 21 and a 24, you can go ahead and use them. But otherwise, just go ahead and get you a couple of wrenches. I think you'll be much better off. They give you a fence, comes with the table. It's adjustable. I'll get a little closer here in a second to show you that. And you also get a guard that goes over top of the router bit. And I've seen a few videos where people take the guard off. Don't do that. If you got 10 fingers like I do, I want to keep them after I turn the machine off. I don't want to be running to the hospital trying to reattach a finger unless the router's still running. So always make sure that you have this guy on. The other thing that you really need to have on hand, and I've got a couple of these laying around here, but push sticks. This is replaceable. This is not. Use push sticks. You don't want to get your hands or your fingers too close to that bit. It's spinning at 28,000 RPMs or something like that. It'll be gone before you even know it. So, safety is real important here. Even if you think you've done this 100 times and you're a pro and you can do it, well, let me tell you, even pros make mistakes. So, this is replaceable. Doesn't cost anything. These guys aren't. Just keep that in mind. One of the things that I did, though, and I think was really important for me, is that I'm going to use mine outside. And what I did was, the legs have 2 holes at the bottom of each leg. And I went ahead and just took a couple of 2x4s. I cut them 30 inches because I can put it on this little fireplace I got here. And I just put the 2x4s across there, and it makes it more stable. And it's actually worked out pretty well for me. And if you have an area where you can snug this thing up and and just firm it up on a secure spot, I think you'll enjoy it a lot more. But that's one of the things I did. But let's go ahead and I'm going to kind of switch views here, and we'll go over the router part, and I'll show you the screws, and I'll show you the depth gauge, and talk about the fence and things like that a little bit closer so you can see. One thing I'm going to do also is I'm going to show you the actual dimensions of this thing. Obviously it's pretty small, but I got my tape measure here, and we'll show you what the actual dimensions are. That way, you can see if it's going to fit in a spot or things like that. One other thing before I go, it's light. It's light. I don't know what the box says weight-wise, but it's very light. It's very maneuverable. Nobody really should have a problem moving this thing around. So, it's not very cumbersome. Overall, it's very easy to get in, to different places or different rooms. So, anyway, I'm going to switch views here. Hang on. A quick walk around the table, and I'll go over the dimensions first. It's about 23.5 inches wide, and the depth of the table is looks like about 14 inches. Yeah, it's about 14 inches. So 23 by 14. It's not very big, but the few uses that I've had for it so far, it's done its job. So I've got no complaints at this point. So looking at the guard here, it's a very simple construction. It's just got this post right here, and it's got a cotter pin at the top to make sure that the guard does not escape. That is, of course, if you are using it, and once again, please use the guard. It's important. There's a reason why it's there. So to adjust it, literally it just slides up and down. That's all it does. It's not rocket science. Now, as far as the fence goes, very easy. It's plastic construction. It's light, easy to move around. It does have a gauge right here on the table, and that gauge is on both sides. So that's kind of nice. So you can make sure that you've got your work square if it needs to be. It's also got another kind of a bump out feature here, and see, this is where you're gonna loosen up the fence to to make it move around. But it's got another feature right here, this little bump out, and kind of pushes in and pushes out. Today it doesn't. It's been a little cantankerous with me, but it's kind of a nice little bump there if you need to to stop, basically if you need to stop your work at a certain spot or anything like that. It's pretty cool feature to have, and I mean, it's really nothing, but to be quite frank with you, it's for all it is, it's actually a pretty good feature. So I think it's pretty cool. One other thing that this saw has is the exhaust for vacuum, so you can clean up really easy. It's about a 2.5 inch exhaust nozzle there. Just hook up your shop vac, and it should suck out most of the dust. Now, the thing about this is routers and router tables, whew, they are handy, but they are very, very dusty, dirty, and got a lot of debris that comes out of them. So, just kind of keep that in mind. It's not perfect, but so far so good. It's pretty good at what it does. The last thing is, I guess, this is the miter gauge, and it's adjustable here, and it's plastic. It's not the best one in the world, but once again, it does what it's supposed to do. This isn't a heavy-duty piece of equipment or machine by any means, but it does what it needs to do. And after I get done with what I'm doing, I'll probably make another one just to make it a little more solid. As far as the controls go, here's the on-off switch. It's right on the lower left of the table, easy to get to. Here is the collet of the router itself. It's got a lower and an upper nut that you need to tighten. The one on the lower end holds the shaft, while the one at the top is actually the collet that where you'll put your bit in to tighten it down. So it's gotta have a little dexterity to do that sometimes. Okay, so here we go. Here's the gauge that they provide for you, and I'll be quite honest with you. It's, you know, nothing to write home about. I guess it's there. It's, I would say, not accurate, but it's, you know, maybe close to within a quarter inch. I don't know. At least on my routing table it is. So, you know, kind of keep that in mind. This is, you know, not an exact table here or exact science, but you know, it's, I guess at best it's a guide. Maybe that might be the best way to say it. I don't know. But you know, just keep that in mind. Don't treat that as, you know, it's perfect. Do what they say. Measure twice, cut once. If you do that, I think you'll be okay. All right, I'm going to go around to the back side of the table and show you one more feature on the router itself. Okay, so this is the back side of the router, and the only feature here really is this right here. This is the depth setting, and you know, it's double nutted so that, you know, you can kind of lock it in place. It doesn't come with wrenches to tighten this, so you're going to have to find your own wrenches to tighten this, and you need to have it tight and tight. Otherwise, as much vibration is going on with this router table, it's going to vibrate and off, and so it's already happened to me. And so just be sure that you know, before you start this thing up, make sure that you've got everything tightened down. And I would also recommend that if you double check the collet and the nut, you know, where the bit goes in every single time that you start this router table. It's just it takes a second to do, and again, it's just a safety precaution. That's all it is. So okay, you know, that's about everything as far as going over the router table itself. There's you know, there's really not much to it. It's pretty straightforward. I think that most people, if they take their time and think about what they're doing, and you know, be careful, think before you do anything, I think you'll probably be okay with this router table. But I think what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to take a few pieces of wood, and I'm going to cut a dado, and I'll show you how it performs, what it does, the noise level, and you know, show you how it works. It's pretty simple, and let you be the ultimate decider here on, you know, whether it's a go or whether it's no. But for $100, it's $100. You buy the warranty and they give you a discount. So you know, I don't know that it's a win-win, but it's I think you're pretty safe. But let's go ahead and get a piece of wood or two and get this thing cranked up, and show you how well or how not so well you think it performs. Hang on, here we go. Okay, so got my table set up. I've got a clamp here with a height adjustment that I put on here just to make sure that my piece of material stays down after it passes by the router bit. And got my guard on. I'm wearing gloves just because it's you know, it's a good thing. I've got a push stick here, and I don't need the miter gauge, so I'm not going to use that. And the material that I'm using is 3/4 inch poplar, I believe, and all I'm doing is cutting a 3/4 inch dado right down the center here, and obviously I'm using a 3/4 inch dado. Okay. So I'm going to get you zoomed in a little bit here and give you an up close and personal shot. Not how well you can see it, but there's the data that I cut. It's pretty smooth. I don't think the router bit is the best router bit in the world that I have, and I also bought that at Harbor Freight when I purchased the table. But you know, once again, for what I'm doing, I'm making beehives, and I think the bees will not give me too much fuss about it. But I'm going to give you another shot where the light's a little bit better. Let me get that set up. Right there, if you will, about tightening up the screws. That's how important it is, and that's why you need to double check everything. But you know, that's just an FYI. So I just thought I'd show you that. That's real life, real time. You know, nothing staged. That's just kind of the way it went down. But as far as the router worked, you know, it didn't do bad, but one thing that I noticed that it does do is sometimes it doesn't clean out whatever channel it is that you're cutting. So you know, you might have to slow down and take your time and kind of you know, make sure that it's cleaned up. You can actually hear when it kind of bogs down a little bit. You know, it's getting gummed up. You can actually kind of tell. So anyway, that's just one of the things that I've noticed. Okay, well, that is my review of the Harbor Freight router table, and for me, for what I'm doing, you know, so far right now it's performing just fine. You know, once again, the things I would do is make sure you tighten up them screws, because you just saw, and they come loose. This thing vibrates a lot, but I think they're already loose most of the time. So tighten them and double check them, tighten them again. But you know, overall, it's enough power for what I want to do, and it's got you know, enough features to do basic stuff. You know, I'm not doing anything fancy with this thing, but you know, that's for my other real router, and you know, it does what it needs to do, and I think for the money, it's hard to beat. And you know, maybe it's a good introductory router for somebody, and before they figure out, okay, maybe I need this table or that table is better, or you know, whatever. But it's I think it's a pretty good place to start, at least at minimum. And yeah, so you know, for $100, I'm not going to complain too much about it. But anyway, I thought I'd give you the 25-cent tour, in my opinion, and you know, hope it helps you in the future with maybe buying one for yourself. And yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Thanks for taking the time out and listening to me ramble about this thing. And you know, if you don't mind, click subscribe. I think I got about 100 subscribers. Never thought I'd have that many, but hey, you know, I'd like to get over 100. But yeah, YouTube's pretty cool. I got a couple of bee videos I need to get out, and I got to get on the stick and get those going. And March is coming. I got to get these boxes done, and so you know, it's a fun time of the year. But anyway, once again, thanks a lot, and you guys take care. See you next time.